Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I would like to present our assignment for subject ITT440, which is network programming. We are from group M3CS 2504A and we are from group 1. So, to begin our presentation today, I would like to tell our group members. Our group members consist of 5 people, which is Tengku Zafran as our group leader. We also have Muhammad Afiq, our lead programmer. We have Shazwan and Mukri as our programmer and myself as a system tester. So Docker is an open source platform that enables developers to build, deploy, run, update, and manage containers. And Docker also allows you to ship, test, and deploy applications. So, when is Docker created? Docker debuted to the public in Santa Clara at PyCon in 2013. It was released as open source in March 2013. There are several benefits of Docker, which is Docker works in any environment. It also eliminates compatibility issues regardless of machine configuration. It also reduces workload during application development, and Docker also provides a standardized way to deploy application. So, in our assignment, we have 3 tasks, which is task 1 is ask us to create database with attributes, user points, and data time stamp using MySQL that can receive data from client and server. And for task 2, it asks us to create container for server using C and Python to update database record. And for task 3, they require us to create containers for client using C and Python to ask the latest point from server. So, this is our interface database, which is PHP MyAdmin. And as you can see here, it will update the points for the user and how they update the points. So the points will increase 1 point for every 30 seconds, and the delete time also will be updated to our real time. So, for example, like this, as you can see, the points are increased from 3,486 and it increased to 3,212 for Afiq. So in Docker Desktop, we have our Python client server, and we also have MySQL container for our database. So as I mentioned before, we have Python server that connected to client server. So for example, Python server connected to Mokri, which is our client server, and we also have Python server 2 to connected to Shazwan, and we also have Python server 3 connected to Afiq. And for PHP MyAdmin is for our interface database. So we use Ubuntu to place C language client server, and we have 2 client server in Ubuntu, which is client server connected to Iskandar, and then client server 2 connected to Tengku. So this client server is connected to MySQL container database.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the previous presenter. Now I would like to explain about our C server. As you can see, first we have to include all the necessary library. And then we have to define the server port, which is 3200. And then define the buffer size, which is 1024. And then we have to declare all the host number, which is 192.168.220 and 200, our username, root, our root password, and also our database name, which is my underscore database. Next is the function for prototyping, and also we are entering the main right now. As you can see here, this is the exit failure message when MySQL integer is giving the null value. And here there is also an error message for exit failure when MySQL will connect give a null value or there is no connection between MySQL and the server. And then we have function to create server socket, which both returning value -1, which also mean an exit failure. And then we have preparing for server address. We are naming the constant server address in family for AF underscore inet server underscore address dot sin underscore address dot s address for in address underscore any, and lastly server underscore address dot sin underscore port for hash tones in braces server point. Then this is the function to bind the socket. If the bind give the value of -1, it is also the same, which return the exit failure message. And also the same for listening for incoming connection. When there are no incoming connection or returning the value of -1, they will return the exit failure message. And then it will print C server listening on 0.0.0.0 with the server port at the last part. And then entering the main server loop, if the value is 1, which is connection established and everything is okay, it will firstly it will print accepted connection. And as you can see here, everything is connecting well. But if the returning value is 0, an error message called thread creation fail will be disclosed and the client socket will be closed. And then the server socket will then close after operation, and also MySQL close. Our MySQL database will also be closed and returning exit underscore success, which means that our connection is success. Then right here, while is it also 1, meaning that the connection is established correctly. If the returning value is -1 and 0, or the value is less than or equal to 0, it will break. Then it will right here, if the buffer byte received is equal to over 0, it will print receive data from client with the buffer number at the end. Then right here, as you can see, is the line of code to update the database, and right here is the line of code to update the query current point for the user, and right here is to send point back to the client. And then it will sleep for 30 seconds, which means that the database will update itself every 30 seconds. And then the client socket will then be closed and returning null for the value. And then as you can see here, right here, if my SQL query unable to update itself, it will then prompt the message update fail error and also prompt the database name at the back. And lastly, as you can see here, to summarize this server, the C server, this server is what will update the client, which is 1 point every 30 seconds. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will present a Python script that sets up a TCP server and integrates with a MySQL database to manage user points. First, we import the necessary libraries, socket for network communication, MySQL connector for MySQL database interaction, and threading for multiple client connection concurrently. Next, we configure MySQL connection with host, user, password, database name. We establish the connection and create a cursor for executing queries. This one. Moving on, we then configure the TCP server to listen to all interfaces and a specified port, which we are using port 15,000. The update database function updates the points and timestamp of a user. If the user exists, their points are incremented by 1. If not, new record is created. The handle client function manages communication with a connected client. It receives data, updates the database, retrieves the current point, and sends this information back to the client. The database is updated every 30 seconds. You can see here time.sleep is 30 seconds. Finally, we set up our server loop. The server socket binds to the configured host and ports, listens for incoming connections, and starts a new thread to handle each client connection. So in summary, this script sets up a TCP server that connects to a MySQL database and manages user points by handling client connections concurrently.
Now, I would like to explain on the Docker file that updates the container for C server. As you can see for the first line, hashtag use an official GCC runtime as a parent image from GCC latest. This line specifies the base image for the Docker container, which is the GCC latest image that includes the GCC compiler and other necessary build tools. This ensures that you have a working environment with GCC installed. Next, for the line run apt-get update and an apt-get install, which is under the hashtag install necessary package. This is for updating the list of available packages and their version, but doesn't install or upgrade any packages. For default library MySQL client developer backslash and also an nrm rf /var /lib /apt /list is for installing the MySQL client development libraries which are necessary for compiling the server.c file that uses MySQL function. Then for the next one, under the hashtag set the working directory in the container, which is workdir /usr /src /app. This is for setting the working directory inside the container to /usr /src and /app. Any subsequent copy or run or other commands will be executed in this directory. And for copy the current directory contents into the container at /usr /src and /app, or copy dot dot is for copies the contents of the current directory on the host machine into the directory inside the container. This includes the server.c file and any other files present in the current directory. For compile the server.c file, run gcc-o server.c -lmy mysql client -lpt thread lp thread is to compile the server.c source file into an executable name server. For make port 15,000 available to the world outside this container, which is exposed 3200, is to inform Docker that the container will listen on port 3200 at runtime. This is used for documentation purpose and does not actually publish the port. And lastly, for the run server when the container launches, which is cmd, to specify the command to run the container starts. In this case, it runs the server executable that was compiled earlier. The cmd instruction provide default for an executing container. That's all from me. Thank you.
So now I will present a Docker file that sets up a container for a Python server. Let's go through it step by step. First one, we specify the base image. Here, we use the official Python runtime image, specifically the slim version of Python 3.9. This is a lightweight image that includes Python and minimal sets of dependencies. Next, we set the working directory inside the container to /m. This means all subsequent instructions will be executed in this directory. After that, we copy the contents of the current directory on our host machine into the /app directory inside the container. This ensures all of our application files are available within the containers. After copying the files, we install the required Python packages. The requirement.txt files list all the dependencies for our applications, or our server in this case. We use pip to install these packages without caching, which helps to reduce the size of the final image. Then, we make the port 5000 available to the outside world. This is the port our server will listen on when running inside the container. So other people can connect to this exposed port of 5000 to connect to the container. Finally, we specify the command to run the application or the server when the container starts. Here, we're running server.py using Python.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Shazam and I will explain a C program that send a user ID to a Python server and receive a point in return. So in the main function, user ID is defined as a string, Iskandar. This user ID is then passed to the send user ID function, which then create a socket. If socket creation fails, an error message is printed and the program exits. We then prepare the server address. This involves setting the address family to AF underscore INET, the port number to server underscore port, and converting the IP address to binary form using the INET underscore return. If the IP address is invalid, an error message is printed and the program exits. Uh, in an infinite loop, the user ID is sent to the server using the send function and we print a confirmation message. The program then waits to receive a response from the server using the rect function. If valid points are received, they are printed. Otherwise, an error message is displayed. The loop repeats every 13 seconds. This program demonstrates basic client-server communication using socket in C, as it covers how to create a socket, connect to a server, and send data and receive a response. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mukri and I will explain Python program that send a user ID to a Python server and receive point in return. So first, we define a server host and port which used to connect the server. Then, the user ID function starts by creating a socket using the socket library. The with statement ensures that the socket is properly closed after we're done with it. We then connect to the server using the specified host and port. Next, in an infinite loop, the user ID is sent to the server using the sender11 method, which ensures that all data is sent. We print a confirmation message. The program then waits to receive a response from the server using the recv method, which retrieves data from the server. If the received data is valid number, it's converted to an integer and printed. Otherwise, an error message is displayed. The loop repeats every 30 seconds. The main part of the program checks if the script is being run directly. If it is, it defines a user ID, MUCRI, and call the send user ID function with this user ID. So, in conclusion, this program demonstrates basic client-server communication using socket in Python. This type of communication is fundamental in networking and many real-life applications. That's all for my part. Thank you.